And we're live, no take back. So we're talking about Flesh Golems
Oh,
this week.
fuck!
And demonetized. Not that I was getting monetized anyway.
Editor, don't bleep that out.
Editor, leave it in. Let them try and stop me. They can't. They actually can. I'm pretty stoppable. How you guys doing? Let's talk about Flesh Golems. Why Flesh Golems in particular? What do you like so much about the human flesh?
Nothing.
Well,
Okay, sure.
Nothing at all. Why pick flesh when you can work with any more sustainable material?
no,
They're the only biological golem.
Pretty much. I know, like,
Yeah.
I mean, unless you count, like, well, I wouldn't count,
Plasma
like,
golem? No, 'cause I always get that mixed up. Plasma in blood is different than the state of matter.
oh.
I don't know why they... because plasma is based on the word for plastic, which means malleable, which they both are.
That makes sense, actually.
Yeah.
I'm trying to like think of other golems, like, or at least I guess there's like, because there's other ideas in my head, but that's also like I'm pretty sure that's like third party shit that I'm thinking of. So
I know,
it's
like, me personally, I've homebrewed a few. Like, I've done, like, mud golems, wood golems, stuff like that. Just want something distinct from a tree int and not exactly use a tree int.
Yeah.
I think-
So to give you guys the basic rundown of a flesh golem, because they're the same as every other golem, the fact that they're made of flesh is the only thing really unique about them. And the way that golems work, or golems, I don't know the specifics, is you put together a reliable material with an intended purpose behind why you're using that material, and then you imbue an elemental spirit inside of this lifeless husk, and like you put a bunch of symbols on it to make sure that spirit doesn't get away, which is why they go berserk. That's the baseline 5e way that they work. I feel like there's a lot that you can do with flesh golems themselves that other golems can't do, but they haven't done any of that.
Yeah,
like
because...
there's
Oh, go ahead, Mario.
I know two unique things that I know that 5e has done is one, it's like using special flesh to make certain things. So there's like fiendish golems that exist where it's like, oh yeah, this is like a stronger golem because it uses like the bodies of fiends or demons and stuff. Or there is, I remember, I think it was like that Qualsh book. I forget. Like I mostly remember it as like an item thing, but I thought it was kind of cool.
There's a
Where it was
Qualsh book?
I don't know if it's a book or a PDF or what. I've seen it on like D&D Beyond.
Okay.
Probably an unofficial thing.
Yeah, sounds like it.
I remember because that was where the fucking Iron Man suit comes from, like that thing where it's like the spaceship, like fucking the
apparatus of
Qualsh.
Qualsh.
I think it's like a.
Are you
there's
thinking
like
of the Armored
no,
Artificer?
thinking
Is
about
that
the
what you mean by
item.
Iron Man?
Because there's like a thing where I forget what the hell it was for, but there is like a thing on D&D Beyond where it is a module type thing, and it's called like Laboratory of Qualsh or something like that. And there is like there's like weird magic items in there. Like one of them is straight up like you get like a special Iron Man suit where it's just like, oh, this has like a battery and like you have like fucking like shit that you could fire from it. But I think something else, I don't know if I'm thinking about it from that book or something else, but I think there was like basically like a flesh golem armor thing where the idea was like you put on like a skin suit.
Like the jacket fruit?
Yes, like literally like the jacket fruit where it's like you put on like a flesh suit and you get like bonuses from it and shit. And it has like a fire weakness, but it's like you get like basic, which is funny. It's like...
I went the opposite mind. My mind went Buffalo Bill from Silence of the Lambs.
It's one of the other.
Well, I would say this is a reason why I think flesh golems, for me particularly, I like flesh golems is like I like the body horror aspect. I think they're fun for like crazy bullshit of like grossing out players with that horror of like there's this mangled fucking, like it's not necessarily like undead. It's like it's just like some fucked up dude put some shit together.
And then my question to you would be, why use a flesh golem instead of any of those actual like direct body horror things where you can encapsulate the suffering of an active human soul? That doesn't really have it. It's just gross.
I think the only reason that only reasons I could think of like, oh, flesh golems would be cool would be for like certain mechanical reasons too, where it's just like, oh, you could fucking like. I've wanted to. I've never done anything with it, but I always thought like, oh, it'd be cool to have like a blue dragon that has like a bunch of flesh golems because they could basically heal them.
Yeah, like a blue dragon, and
yeah.
his breath could actually heal them. For that sake, if you go
Yeah,
by
yeah,
that,
Yeah,
just
same
lightning.
thing.
do lightning absorption.
And it's like, but then again, I could always just lift that and put it on something else.
Yeah, I like them just because there's a lot of customization you could do with them. Just because you get a lot of easy ideas from that, since they were a humanoid at one point. At least parts of them were. Maybe I don't know. You can get a little fancy with it. Well, I was nearly even having the idea that might be a fun enemy. Is just some mad scientists that tried to make the amalgamation of all races, and they just have like all their attacks are just racial abilities. Like they have tabaxi claws, they have tieflings, like innate magic, that Vozimar's resistances, they have and just like various innate spell casting, innate abilities, stuff like that.
Just a stockpile of different abilities, like one for all.
Oh yeah.
What I was thinking when you said like trying to make the perfect form, in
One for all again.
Castlevania, what's Saint
Germain?
Saint Germain? Yeah, his
Yeah.
whole goal was to put together this perfect human that was both like man and woman and alchemically perfect. So it could be fun to maybe explore that narratively, like someone's putting a flesh golem together not because they know what it is or what it does or what actually inhabits it, but because they're trying to make something else.
You know,
Which is exactly what Frankenstein is, which is why they have the lightning thing.
Yeah.
which is also like, I think that is like a fun aspect to it, is like the Frankenstein connection, because that's also like, it's a weird thing where it's like, because I think the finicky thing with it is like, that's not like, that is the inspiration, but that's not necessarily where the D&D version of the golem is. Like, it's not kind of, it's meant to be like this mindless thing, and I like that aspect of like,
yeah, because if you
playing
do,
with that.
because the book Frankenstein is such a tragedy. I mean, it's
Yeah.
because I don't know. There's a lot to unpack there, but I love the Frankenstein book. That's probably my favorite horror book.
One thing I would like to note is Frankenstein, if you actually look at his feats as the book goes, he is borderline hyper intelligent. His ability to rapidly learn human customs and speech patterns and like word purposes and stuff, and how he begins to speak much more eloquently and act much more intelligently than even the doctor himself. You're like, whoa.
That's scary.
Yeah.
Yeah, honestly, well, that's kind of I cut you off, Chuck. What were you gonna say?
I was going to say, it's a really funny thing that I feel like most modern interpretations of the monster are taken from Young Frankenstein and not the actual Frankenstein. Like, have y'all seen the parody movie Young Frankenstein?
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Because that one, he was the big, dumb, hulking brute the whole movie. And that's generally what you see in most things, instead of, by the end, it's a very tragic, alone, eloquent person who just happens to kill anyone with the last name Frankenstein, as you do.
Pardon me.
Did the original design have the bolts in his head or his neck? Is that ever mentioned in the book, or
I'm
was
not
that just a
sure.
costume thing?
I think that was
think
just
it's a
kind of an
costume.
aesthetic added on later on.
I think it's just literally supposed to be not bolts, but a lightning rod through his neck. Yeah, like attached to
was
his
initially
spine,
what-
which is kind of cool.
Yeah. I like the visuals of it, like but it's there are like certain things that, like, because you're bringing up earlier, Chuck, about like putting different body types of stuff together, and it kind of made me think of like Godric from Elden Ring, where it's just like you could go that route too, where it's just like fucking you just mash like a bunch of random shit together.
Yes.
I
love
I think a
Godric so
fun-
much for that, because him and the Scion spiders, they're such creepy, fun enemies. I love them.
Run me through Godric again. I recognize the name thoroughly.
You remember
yeah.
the guy who like has the dragon head arm? And
the like
First
gene
major
spliced guy.
Yeah.
Second, the fucking Spell Omen. That's the other one.
Uh-huh.
One thing I actually just noticed in the Flesh Golem is he has a Hulk mechanic that the other golems don't.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't know this. Is if the
No,
golem
yeah.
creator is nearby, they can persuade them to stop going berserk.
Mhm. It
Mhm.
it's pretty neat. You could definitely tell that was they took some aspects of it, but left it enough alone to make it its own thing, like the lightning absorption being kind of a nod
Mhm.
to how like most depictions of Frankenstein are of
The
just
term
them
galvanism.
bringing the monster to life through electricity.
It heavily begs the question, though, because all other golems, I think I've said this a couple times, they are just elementals
Mhm.
confined in an object. But if you can do this with a flesh golem specifically, and it has like a familial bond, which no elemental can have, they're from
Yeah.
a plane where everyone is the same guy and they want to die and go back to that. Why
Mhm.
would this one have that individuality? And I think that does come from like these body parts or whatever soul you conjure up. Do you think it's some like a fraction of the soul of the person that you're putting
'Cause
together? Maybe which part? I
It
don't know. It's a
might
weird
this
thing.
makes me think of like a skeleton lore stuff where it's like,
Okay.
when you bring up a skeleton and they might do like the old things that they used to do, like if you resurrected a farmer skeleton, if you leave them, like if you don't give them
Mhm.
anything to do, they might like go off and start like tending fields or something. They might start like kind of miming things that they did in their past life. And the idea behind that is more like there's some fucking entity that came out from some other plane that has inhabited this corpse, and it's not like the spirit of the original thing, but there's something like deep in the bones of the
Yeah,
actual thing that
yeah.
calls back to the original life.
that's
Yeah,
cool.
because
Yeah,
yeah,
Oh
I
no,
like
go
that
ahead, Troy.
concept.
yeah, because that was kind of the thought I had when it comes to my portrayal of
Mhm.
zombies in general. Is just obviously their brains rotted isn't there, but they still have that muscle
Mhm.
memory of things they did in
Yeah.
back in real life. So
Which is fun to think about because in the D&D cosmology, you have when you die, your soul fully conscious with all memories that you've accumulated going somewhere else. So
Mhm.
it's just that imprint, sort of
Mhm.
the DNA sequencing or whatever's in that body that
Yeah.
you are stealing that isn't that person, which makes it that much creepier, I think. And
Yeah.
that's really fun to play with is that they are not there, but they can convince you to think that, or rather, you're convincing yourself to think like, oh, that's a
It's
real person.
yeah.
It's not. It's the
it's kind of
body,
like
which is so
it makes
uncanny.
me
Mhm.
it makes me think of like the fucked up idea of whatever is inhabiting this. It is basically like whatever power that it has is being pulled into the body, and it's kind of like asking like, okay, how does this world work? Like how does this like what do I get from this? And it's just like it's basically reacting off of like whatever the fuck it picked up. Like I like the like it kind of makes me think almost in that same way of like if some weird thing was put into like an animal's bones or something, it would probably still act like that animal. Like if you had like a skeletal horse or something like that, it might still act like a horse. So it's like a thing of
They generally do, yeah,
Yeah,
which is
yeah.
interesting to
Mhm.
think about.
Yeah, that is a that's another level that I kind of like. So I was kind of thinking more going into that crafted aspect with villain I got in
Oh
this
yeah, yeah.
campaign of just like someone mixing together a bunch of animal parts, kind of to do another One Piece reference because we got to shove one of them every now and then. Is
Moria.
the Dr. Hogback, what he did in Thrower Bark was there
Hmm.
was a lot of cool monster designs in that world,
Yeah.
like him making his own Cerberus and all them other creatures that were in
I
Thrower Bark.
wouldn't
There was a
call
lot
any of
of
them.
really
I
neat
guess
stuff going on there.
conceptually, a lot of them were cool. Visually, Oda was having a lot of fun. Like the
Oh,
Yeah.
spider monkey looked amazing. Um,
well, Oda just has likes drawing goofy, silly things. Like him and
Mhm.
Toriyama really shared that trait of that seems to be
yeah.
their main passion is just designing really fun and silly drawings,
hmm
then making them the most deadly thing imaginable in ratio to how silly you are.
Literally,
Well,
yeah.
it's like
It's
because that's
inverse
also
scaling.
like a kind of that calls back to that same kind of idea where it's like, okay, in that one piece, because I definitely stole that concept and I used that in my fucking campaign like a while
Making
back.
the
Uh,
silliest bastard ever be the most powerful thing ever.
well, it's more like somebody was basically like, I had like this thing of like, oh, there were these witches, and like two of them, one was really good at like flesh warping stuff, and they could basically make golems that didn't have like a, like they would basically like get bodies and make certain things. So like they were my idea of, they made Banderhobbs. Why? Because they just wanted to make big frog creatures, but it was this thing of like, basically she would make the bodies, and they had another one that could like manipulate shadows, and they basically stripped shadows from people and put it into the body, and it basically created the Banderhobbs that were able to like fucking like do like
Kidnap
shadow
people.
step stuff, and
Yeah.
and then it like went into other things where they had like other types of golems and stuff that had similar bullshit going on, but I kind of stole that idea, and it kind of made me think back too, where it's like Brooke fighting the samurai guy, where it's like, even though the samurai guy has Brooke's shadow, I'm pretty sure he still kind of recollects, like, there's something about him that kind of calls back to the original life that he had.
Yeah, he's supposed to be like an even mix of that original samurai and Brooke himself, which is why he uses both of their techniques.
Yeah, because I think that was something that was kind of hinted at, but not outright said in Throw a Bark, that it seemed like all the Straw Hats that had their shadows taken, their zombie was a lot more like them than it was in real life, and even the other zombies were noting that was kind of odd. So it just seems like, based on kind of your willpower, how much of yourself you retain.
Personality. Yeah.
It is explicitly stated that after a while, you're gone. So it's a lingering but non-permanent thing.
Okay, that makes sense. Been a while since I've seen Throw a Bark. I need to rewatch that on like a Halloween thing or something like that. That'd be fun.
Yeah.
There's also, I think, kind of like looking back at Flesh Golems, maybe an aspect that goes into that too is like, basically what goes into the Flesh Golem is usually like a wind elemental of some sort. I think that, so it could be this thing of like, elementals don't really have, I guess, that same point of view as people. So maybe it is that thing of like, you put this entity, and it's kind of like, in a similar way, pulling from this body and trying to figure out, what the fuck am I?
The plight of every golem, which is why after a little while they just get really mad.
Yeah,
and I respect that. I've been there.
Father,
what am
why
I?
was I born?
Start punching the mirror, fucking.
just like me, for real. Have an existential crisis a few days after figuring it all out.
I talked about this, like, I think this was like post our last podcast, so I don't think we like recorded any of that, but I talked about how in a Strahd campaign I kind of changed up a golem, and like basically rundown was like,
I'm not sure, but I remember that was our first conversation about Flesh Golems.
Okay. Well, like, just main idea, I like that concept of over time, as the party like basically took this golem with them, and she was like hanging out with them more and more, she slowly started speaking better, and like being a bit more eloquent about like it's like putting sentences together more, and like there's an aspect to that with the party. They kind of viewed her as like, she's like a cute little companion that we have with us, and like she's not like disfigured looking, because the abbot wanted them to look pretty to be like Strahd's real doll there, but it was this thing where
she got a great
it's kind of fucked up. It's kind of fucked up where it's like, I basically dug up like a bunch of people. Like, even at the start, there was this point where like somebody that the party had talked to was just like, my daughter's grave got like pulled out of the ground, and like basically,
oh my god,
like it was like this thing of like they mentioned, she was like you saw they saw the NPC, and the mother had like red hair, and basically when they met the Frankenstein, or like the Flesh Golem, they called her Frankie in the end, but she also had like this red hair, and it was just kind of like calling back to like, they probably just basically pulled off her scalp and put it on her. And it was just like the really creepy aspect to that. It's just like, this thing.
My mind went the opposite direction. That'd just be wild if like the Flesh Golem walks up and her late husband just comes up and it's like, I recognize them thighs.
I recognize that ass anywhere.
You can't hide my wife's dead thighs.
Sometimes sometimes when I'm alone, I can still hear her cheeks clapping down the hall.
I might be blind.
And now that you've brought her back, it's more vivid than ever.
I might be half blind, half deaf. Strahd might have raided my home many times. I'm trapped in this perpetual depressing void, but my God, I recognize that light above my thighs. I tell you what, son.
I'll tell you what.
Get you some thighs that last beyond death.
But yeah,
And it
fucking,
took us 20 minutes before we go on a tangent like that. I think that's a new record for us. Good job.
Where are we even supposed to be right now in this conversation? I forgot.
This has been our most best
tangential.
This has been our best conversation about anything without going off the rails.
this is the greatest content.
I know.
Title it stuff.
It's going to be really funny if someone's watching these back to back and they hear us just trash talk vampires and make incel jokes for 30 minutes. Serious discussion.
Someone's at home, like, listening to this, like, with their fucking headphones on, and they're just like, what the fuck is this?
Eating a bowl of cereal. I see
Your
you.
fucking bowl of Apple Jacks.
Eating their curds and whey.
There we go. But,
Oh, fuck.
but one thought I had to get back to you on topic was another big difference with Flesh Golems, I imagine, is the fact that they're... Imagine all golems and elementals, for the most part, just go off primal instinct alone with very limited, more animalistic intelligence. More animalistic, I'd say, for the elementals, but golems is just instinct from their last commands. But Flesh Golems, it feels like there might still be that capacity to learn there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of like a weird, probably in the worst, most convoluted way, like a rebirth.
Yeah.
You're bringing an ignorant creature who doesn't know anything or who's forgotten everything into the body of probably multiple people just looking at the art.
Yeah.
Like, so it has to learn everything from all these body parts and also learn how to move them like a person.
Yeah.
So I feel like the getting's good when you start. Once you create that golem, you have a baby you have to raise.
Yeah.
And then once it's like going, you could turn it into something like a fucking pillar man who just learns like crazy fast.
That'd be awesome, actually.
Yeah.
That'd be scary, make like cars by accident.
It's like fucking like that's kind of an interesting idea of like the golem. Like it's like over time it starts becoming like stronger. It starts learning how to manipulate the body since it's just a vessel that it could fuck with. It's like imagine like it just gets like cars by like it's it gets like the cars knives out of the fucking forearms and shit.
I just imagine when the way Santana like actually liquefied and went into a vent. That'd be so scary to have.
Yeah, that's the first thing I was thinking of.
Yeah, because
I guess that's a question in itself. Would you like? I guess this is like a thing of more so like for flavor stuff. Like picturing a golem literally ripping themselves apart and like just squeezing through places.
The one stipulation, knowing the mechanics, that I would have to say is as long as the seal remains undamaged, whatever like binding thing that you have them connected to that body stays fine. Because that's the original clay golem. I think it's a Jewish story of a guy who just makes a big guy out of clay and it beats the shit out of everybody.
Yeah. That is a really interesting thing that it all came from Jewish mythos, actually. Just golems and all that.
I have a little video on it.
Ooh.
Yeah, I saw your video.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that video. Yeah, I totally know what you're talking about. I love your videos, Logan.
Yeah,
it fell under the sea of YouTube. It's fine.
I'm sure I've seen it. I'm just blanking on it right now. I'm sorry. But...
I don't even watch my fucking videos. I don't know who makes those.
I get
no.
It's double back to something you were saying earlier when you said rebirth. Actually, really interesting thing that I feel like isn't talked about enough, just because of how interesting of a twisted detail it is when he was making in Mary Shelley's original book, when Victor Frankenstein was making the monster, he actually had it in a big vat full of embryonic fluid. Like, yeah, Victor Frankenstein was actually paying midwives to, when they were delivering babies, to put all the liquid in a bucket and just fill up a big old vat full of it.
Wow.
Yeah, like
A
in
little
the
stem
movie.
cell monster. That's crazy.
In the movie, it took it
Yeah.
a wild step further. There's a Robert De Niro movie, funny enough, that has him as the monster, and they fill up that vat, and then they put a bunch of electric eels in it, and they just start
Yeah.
rattling around, and they're zapping the monster until it just gets rebirthed in a vat of embryonic fluid. It's crazy.
That was my favorite scene from The Amazing Spider-Man 2.
I remember where Jamie Foxx like went in there and then became hyper handsome and blue, and also went to Mars and built a civilization up there.
Yeah. He fucking just started obliterating people.
Yeah,
Grew a million feet tall.
was
Yeah.
pretty crazy actually. Jamie
Became
Foxx,
a
why'd you do that?
For fun.
But yeah, so because I remember that was something that Victor Frankenstein was trying to actually do, is since he had no grounds to work on, tried to go for a rebirth process was his whole like kind of theory behind it. So he made the body, then tried to simulate a birth is kind of how he approached the whole idea. Because I know most depictions of it now, you just see him get strapped to a chair and attach a few car batteries to it until something starts twitching.
Yeah.
But
Just, wow, electricity.
yeah, the original one is a
I really like that embryonic fluid angle. That's a really cool addition to that.
Yeah, even more twisted when you really think about it. But yeah,
Yeah.
but
Or
really,
science. You should have used monkey embryos.
what if that was just like a re? There's been a million retellings of it. What if we just did one where he just made a big orangutan just to have as a friend?
That would either be horrifying or absolutely awesome.
Yeah,
Just
no,
like to turn an orangutan into like a fully functional person, it's not a big stretch, but they'd either like hang out and smoke weed with you or they would dominate half the planet.
I say it could go either way as long
One
as
or the other. I can't speak for them, but that's my guess.
I kind of like.
Sorry, a stupid quick tangent again. The guy who came up with Latin, like applying Latin names to different taxonomical, like scientific names for creatures, he classified humans in the same, like humans as this, that, and orangutans and giants. So orangutans and giants were classified in like the 5 things of humans. It was really funny.
That's fair, because like for early century explorer seeing an orangutan, that's probably the biggest thing he'd ever seen in his life, and he's like, my lord.
The word orangutan means forest person.
Yep. And he just gets his a stone and slingshot out and just starts swinging it around and just like, whack.
That's what David did after he killed Goliath. He hunted orangutans.
Yeah.
He wanted to get their power. He ate their hearts.
Yeah. There's still like 25 of them by the time he died.
And then David presented the 20 orangutans to the king and started sewing them all together and brought them back to life into a giant monstrosity golem. It's like, what do you think?
Boars.
Would you consider like? Oh, okay.
No, we're back on the biblical tangents. We're going to talk about how David took the 24 skins of all the orangutans.
He also just shot that guy with a fucking 20 millimeter.
Mario, go ahead with your tangent.
Yeah.
Okay, we finished our biblical
say,
trivia for tonight.
What do you think is the difference between like would you consider like a flesh golem like an undead to an extent? Like
I gotta be real. Sometimes I just say like this counts as 2 creature types because
I would say no, because there's a third party involved. Like there's a creature inhabiting that body. So
comes from a different power source kind of thing.
Yeah, I would attribute it more to like a person being reborn, but instead of their soul, it's a little bag of wind.
Okay.
Because I think all undead, it's just magic controlling them.
Okay. So what if you did so no. What if it was based on who raised it? Like if it was a necromancer who raised it, he might have used necromancy to do it, but You take like an alchemist doing it, that I'd say might be a construct. Maybe it just depends on the method applied.
Oh, there's that fucking dude in Baldur's Gate. Now that I'm thinking about it, doesn't he have a flesh golem?
What,
You know the
dude?
fat guy. In Baldur's Gate 3, the
Balthazar?
fat guy who
There's a few
Balthazar
fat
Gil,
guys.
or no, not Balthazar Gil. I'm thinking of that's a different thing. There's
Gale down the dark
the
path.
there's a dude who like in the second act, you basically go into the Shar temple.
That's
area.
Balthazar.
Yeah.
There's nothing.
Yeah.
He has a flesh golem, doesn't he?
The little bell ring.
Like-
He is
Yeah,
a flesh golem.
Yeah, the
yeah,
giant
but
hulking
maybe-
thing was a flesh golem.
Fucking. I don't know why. Like it's like
His name is
it
Flesh.
makes me, huh?
Its name is Flesh.
Ah,
Yeah.
he's so clever.
I I realized how silly I am where for some reason I was trying to think of fat people in Baldur's Gate 3 and the first thing that came to my mind was just Gale after eating all your magical artifacts and he's just like
Bloated like Sonic after too many chili dogs, but he ate a bunch of shoes and like scrolls and stuff.
Gale fucking eats all your magic items. He sits on a bench. He like reels back. He's like, oh.
Tab, I ate the crown of Karsus and I'm so stuffed. Oh,
Oh fuck!
I think I'm gonna burst. Not literally.
It's like that-
I'm not gonna explode. I'm joking.
A guy on TikTok who's eating his bed frame. Gale's just chipping away at the crown of Karthus. Like,
Fucking wild cartoon.
oh yeah, it's so funny. He runs off like a dog.
Yeah.
That cartoon's so good.
That's
Yeah.
interesting that Flesh is a golem.
Yeah, because it makes me question. I don't know, like it's one of those, like it kind of makes sense in that same thing where it's like, well, yeah, a necromancer makes a flesh golem, but it's also like, I guess that doesn't count as undead.
No, it's a construct in the
so
game.
it's like
I think he's just a necromancer who's lived for a very long time, long before the story. I'm pretty sure, like he's existed hundreds of years.
Yeah, I think
So he would have
Balthazar's one
acu-
of the people that got revived.
Yeah, they just brought him back again because you can't actually kill Balthazar, I don't think. But he would have eventually gotten the Manual of Golems, which is where all golems come from, sort of. It's a guidebook that it is really loosely explored, but I think it's just like how to take a thing from the outer elemental planes and slap it into a guy. That's it.
Yeah. So I gotta ask because I know, like, toward the end of my last campaign, I experimented with doing like crazy powerful golems because, like, in the wizard they were looking for was like considered the father of all golems, and they found some of his masterwork creations, like.
That's
And he
cool.
made a mithril golem. He made like a cold iron golem and an adamantite golem. Like just these crazy powerful ones.
Yeah.
Have y'all ever experimented with that? Because I feel like there's a lot you could do with golems. Like for some reason, I'm even thinking like Dark Souls 2 had the smelter demon, where it's literally just this huge iron golem that just has a giant iron forge inside of it.
Yeah, that's interesting. So in order to, I think, make any golem along that line of thought, you would have to have something that you can permanently inscribe a rune on, and something that I guess could contain a spirit. So it could really be amorphous,
Yeah.
like a seaweed golem or something. But you could go really diverse. I'm gonna have to think about that for a second, Mario. If you had an
Like-
idea,
I've fucked with like weird stuff before. Like, I'm trying to think of like odd things I've done where it's like, there's definitely some concepts in that general kind of range as well, where it's like, what was it? Because in that same sense, it does make me think back towards. I was explaining something in my current campaign like a while back, where I was talking about Bander Hobbs, and like they're not constructs, but it's like I was kind of treating them in the sense of depending on how they're made because of like lore reasons that are brought up. It's like, oh, they could technically be made out of anything. So I kind of like the idea of, oh, this frog shape is more unique to the person that made it. So it's like a thing of like, oh, a guy
Yeah.
who was a witch hunter had like notes about this, and he was like, yeah, I one time like fought a witch in a swamp, and there were basically like seaweed creatures that they fucking like had like basically meld like it's like it basically like a swamp man kind of situation, where it was like this big fucking thing that would like it would just pop out of the water, abduct people, and fuck off. And
Yeah.
it's like in that same idea, it's kind of like I've definitely toyed with things with that, and I've also played with stuff of like um it's like I've definitely had golems that, since the idea is they have like runes or something inscribed on
Yeah.
them, I've
I got
had
stuff
other
later.
things where it's just like yeah, no worries. I've had stuff where it's just like, I mean, if somebody's doing this shit, what if they just added extra bullshit where it's just like, I don't know, they have like gems or something infused onto them, and sometimes they could just fire like other spells or some shit out of them.
Yeah, because I think the golem, I forget if it was an inscription or if you like put something in its mouth, like a little like prayer scroll. But
Yeah.
I was thinking in the inverse, actually, instead of souping up golems and adding a bunch of stuff, making them like Trogdor, where you put a gun and another gun and another gun. You could do like a farmer who has temporary seasonal golems. Like in
Ooh.
October, he's just got this little farm full of pumpkins, and instead of like bringing them to life, he like goes around and does a little thing and carves them, and then they're fine to go. They're weaker, but there's a bunch of them, and they only exist for like 2 weeks. That'd be super fun. Just
Kind of makes me think of you've seen
could do-
Dungeon Meshi, right?
yeah, like a bakery
Delicious.
golem. Or something. Yes, I saw the first 4 episodes. I think
They
I'm
have a
waiting. I'm
thing-
waiting for a bulk to come out so I
Okay.
can binge it.
They do have a thing with golems similar to that, actually. So that was
What'd they do?
basically like the dwarf guy has golems that he's basically using as a private little farm. I think the idea was just
Oh.
like they're mud golems, and he basically like fucked with their back where he has like carrots and stuff like growing out of them. And
That's so cool.
yeah, and it's like this idea of like, yeah, they just kind of protect themselves. So it's like I have my own personal stash here.
No rabbits are gonna come for that.
Yeah,
The carrot, the
nobody's gonna
carrot
fucking
keeper throws hands. That's awesome.
Which is cool. I do like that concept of like integrating something like this, where it's like it's kind of like that does kind of play into an idea of me thinking on like what if somebody stumbled on a golem? It's like maybe been like way long past set, and like it's like this thing of maybe whatever orders were given to it were kind of loose or whatever. It was just like a thing of like stand right here or some shit, and maybe something happened that just left the golem there. So what if somebody, for whatever fucking reason, was able to get control of it? It's just like a basic dude, and he's like, you're pretty strong. Can you help me like move shit? Like, it's just like
Just like waiting for orders. Like, can you tell me to do something? Yeah.
yeah.
I've been here for like 20 years, and I'm pretty sure my master's dead. Are you my master? And he like stares you dead in the eyes. He's like, please fucking
Yes.
say yes. Yeah, thank you. Okay. What do you want me to do that isn't standing here? That'd be fun.
Yeah.
To just have like a guy who's so ready to help you out, and then have him die a week later. That'd be fun. Yeah, just I'll do anything for you, man. And then he messes up really easily. But yeah. I like the Steven universe. They're not really golems, but the watermelon tribe that he brings to life. It's crazy.
I mean, in a way, they kind of are. Like, it's like almost like they're like, it's like these objects, because don't a bunch of them get fucking squashed?
Yeah, a lot of them die. Like, super
So
constantly.
horrific.
It's kind of fun to think about that Steven has like world scale powers. So if
Yeah.
he did that with enough seeds of enough plants, just started spitting them out with his saliva, Earth's over. Earth's done.
I leave for like 5 seconds and y'all go to Steven Universe. What happened?
Yeah.
We closed out on that. We were talking about short-term golems instead of super-powered golems.
Oh.
Like a farmer who makes a bunch of pumpkins and then carves them, and they run around for 2 weeks and do something.
You know what's
Oh,
what's
that's
fun
cool.
with that is the figurines of Wondrous Power.
Oh.
Do you remember those? Basically you give a command word, it activates the thing for a temporary amount of time,
I have too
and
many videos. I made a video about those too.
yeah, because I remember
I was
I
thinking you
gave you
should
like
know 'em by now.
I gave you the thing because we talked about like the dragon thing, and I like basically brought up, oh, there's this D&D book that I read where basically a guy had a figurine of wondrous power. It was a stone dragon, and there was something fun with the idea of these things think that they are what they are shaped like. So it's like this thing thought it was a dragon. So there was this point where a dude was fighting it and it reels back and it's about to do like a breath weapon attack. And the dude's like, fucking, he's like, dude, I'm so fucked. And he basically like puts his arms up, like ready to die. And it's just this thing where he's like waiting for it and nothing happens. And he sees the dragon kind of like roaring out, shimmying its head. And it looks confused. It's like, what the fuck? That didn't work. What happened to my breath weapon kind of thing. And it's just like the guy gets like, fuck, I'm out of here.
Cool.
Wait, that's what happened to Luffy's Shadow and Thorbark, where he couldn't do the gum attacks.
Oh yeah, he couldn't do the yeah.
Literally, that's super funny. And then he just could because
Because
he definitely have enough. He had enough flesh to stretch. Big old stretching.
It's like I do like that concept of, because there's also like a question to that of like how these things operate, where it's like, why do they think they are these things? Like, it's like if you had like a figurine of wondrous power of like a dog, why does it act like a dog kind of thing? Or like how does it act? Is it more like,
I think it's just an imprint of the resources you use to create that thing. I think that's really what it is. That's what we started with.
One of the D&D books I read was actually about a wizard trying to make a figurine of wondrous power, and he actually compressed an animal into the figurine itself and then bound it to his servitude. Well, he was going to, but the protagonist of the story talked him into letting him keep it. Well,
that's cool.
Either he did and he let the guy keep it, or vice versa. I can't remember what it was, but yeah, I know that was how they portrayed it. That he turned an actual animal into the figurine, so it just became basically an immortal pocket animal. For fun.
But a main thing I really like with them that's cool, at least to me, is it gives a reason to track days, because a lot of them have like a specific thing of, okay, after you use this, you can't use it again until like a week. So it's like,
I like that.
I do like.
You can only use this on Tuesdays.
Yeah, like it's like I had a player who basically had the Griffin one, and it was a constant thing where it's like they were keeping track of time, because it's like, fuck, I used my Griffin, and there was fun things with it where we like calculated, okay, if you're basically flying on your Griffin, and since this thing doesn't get exhausted, if we're going off the idea of like, oh, this thing can dash,
it's like 3 hours a week, right?
Yeah. It was like a thing where they were like, okay, I'm going to go to the capital of this city. I'm going to bring this specific NPC. I'm going to bring them as fast as I can on the Griffin. I'm going to drop them off, have them do a thing, and then I'm going to fly them back just so that I can have enough time to actually get back.
Yeah.
And it's like, it was like it was kind of fun, because it's like, okay, you did that. This was super useful. Can't use it again until like 2 weeks from now.
Yeah. I'm
That's
just imagining
too good.
really
No more.
specific magic items, like, behold, the Saturday sword on Saturday. So for you.
There was one
It can
that
only
I
kill on Saturday, but boy, can it kill on Saturday.
Oh my God.
I
When
gave my
start
players
this thing
a
on
whistle.
Saturday, it's over for you.
I gave my players a whistle recently, and it was called the Eagle Whistle, and it basically lets you fly. But the way that it works is, as long as you're blowing the whistle, you can fly. So it's like a thing of like, you can only
A
fly
lung
for like a couple
capacity
minutes.
thing.
Yeah, it's like it's your lung capacity. It's like, how long can you blow on this whistle?
That's actually really funny. I like that idea.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah. Oh. But I'd say it's a good wrapping up point. I'm sorry I disappeared for a second. My
Yeah.
parents just randomly
alright.
decided to come by my house and say it drop something off them.
How dare they?
I can't believe it. I love them so much. They're great.
Well, I just want to throw out there that this is fun to do. Thanks for having me.
Of course. No,
Or
I enjoy
us.
doing this.
I don't know how Mario feels.
Darn it, I
I
didn't get...
fucking hate this.
There we go. I didn't get to cut y'all off this time, and y'all got sweet on me, except Mario. Thanks for souring the mood.
You got us off. Thank you.
Bye, I guess.
These are super
Fuck
fun.
you, boy.